Welcome to the North Attleborough Community Television, North TV studio here at 93 South Washington Street in North Attleborough for the debate between the two candidates for the Norfolk, Bristol, Middlesex District Senate seat. We have two candidates who will share their thoughts over key issues during the next 60 minutes. And it's appropriate that the Democrat and the incumbent is seated to the left, Rebecca Rausch, who I will be most likely calling Becca throughout the night. That's how I know her. And to the right, makes sense, is the Republican, not too far from here, Franklin, Matt Kelly. We have a series of questions that were penned by Sun Chronicle columnist and the editor of the North Star Reporter, weekly newspaper here in the town of North Attleborough. I will ask one question toward the end of the debate, and in addition, the candidates will get to ask each other two questions. It's a fun format. Sit back, relax, and hopefully by the end of the evening, you know which candidate gets your vote on November 3rd. So let's get right to it. We will begin with opening statements. We literally flipped a coin, and just like the NFL, the winner got the option to get the ball to start or defer the option until the second half. Matt Kelly won the toss. He elected to receive, so Matt will deliver the first opening statement of 3 minutes.
Thank you. I would like to thank Peter Gay and North TV for hosting this debate. And for watching, and for you, I would like to thank you for learning more about my platform. For the past 10 years, the people of Franklin have known me as a town councilor, small business owner, husband, and father of 2 young girls. This race is personal for me. Throughout this campaign, I've spoken to thousands of residents, business owners, and elected officials in the 12 communities across the district. It's clear it's time for a change. My time as a town councilor has given me a deep appreciation for the complexity involved in serving in government and a rare opportunity to help thousands of my fellow citizens. During my time on the council, I have focused on 3 things: improving local government services, bringing back local accessible representation, and building our local economy. I will bring the same focus to the state Senate. I have had a chance to make positive changes by listening, applying common sense, and putting forth willingness to work for all, regardless of party affiliation. The communities in the district now face a daunting list of challenges that include crumbling infrastructure, broken state funding formulas, an abundance of reliable services for those struggling with opioid addiction and mental health issues. COVID-19 has brought on additional concerns regarding the future of our economy, small businesses, elder care, veterans, and more. As your state senator, I will continue to do what I have done in Franklin. I will be present and listen to the people I represent. I will work side by side with the elected officials in all 12 communities, and I will work to support my fellow small business owners to weather this uncertain time. Tonight, I look forward to sharing with you my experiences and vision for our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Also having 3 minutes for an opening statement, Senator Becca Rausch.
Hello. Thank you to North TV for hosting tonight's debate, to the panelists who submitted questions, to Peter Gay for moderating, and to everyone tuning in. I'm Becca Rausch, and it is the greatest privilege and honor of my career to be your state senator. In my first term, I've put my proven leadership to work for each and every person I represent, delivering results for all 12 communities in our district. As the granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor and someone who has experienced targeted hate because of who I am, I've spent my life fighting for justice, fairness, and equity for all. As your senator, I've provided robust services for our people and our municipalities, and I've pushed for progress on the issues that matter most to all of us: public health, reproductive freedom, and ensuring everybody gets a fair shake. The playing field wasn't equal before COVID-19 hit, and now it's even worse. To make that fair shake a reality, we've got to protect our personal and public health. I've been a longtime advocate for equal access to quality and affordable health care. In my first term as your senator, I've championed public health too, leading the charge to help our COVID-19 recovery and taking steps to prevent other infectious disease crises in the future. I've also been an outspoken and successful advocate for maternal health and reproductive freedom. I've passed not one but 2 bills to advance the health of moms and babies on unanimous bipartisan votes. I'm a leading champion of reproductive health care, pushing to ensure access to care even if Roe v. Wade is overturned. I know these issues are important to you because I've been present in each and every town and city in our district, listening to you, engaging with you, and collaborating to bring back hundreds of millions of dollars from Beacon Hill. When the coronavirus brought Massachusetts to a screeching halt, I kept moving forward, securing funding to purchase PPE, support public education, and shore up our childcare sector. As chair of the Municipalities Committee, I passed legislation to ensure all households would retain access to municipal utilities despite falling behind on bills. I'm proud of the many successes I've quickly achieved on behalf of our district, and I've done it all as the foremost champion of legislative transparency. I'm raring to keep going as your senator because we've still got serious work to do on health care, public health, education, transportation, jobs, and the economy, and further uplifting every corner of this district. I'm all in to keep advancing civil rights and human decency so people have a roof over their heads, an affordable doctor's visit, and a job with benefits without discrimination. That's why I'm running for re-election, to keep putting my proven leadership to work for you. I'm Becca Rausch, a working mom of young kids, a successful advocate, and your state senator, and I respectfully ask for your vote on or before November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question of the evening was submitted by Sun Chronicle columnist Bill Gouveia. And Becca Rausch will be the first to answer. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer. Explain to us how you view the Norfolk-Bristol-Middlesex district. Bill would like you to impress us with the knowledge of not just the general issues facing the district, but the ones that may be unique and specific to individual communities we may not know about, and explain how you would address those issues as our senator. Becca?
Thanks so much for the question, Peter, and to our panelists for the question. This district is so special, so amazing. And you know, the places that make this district feel like home are our small businesses. An Unlikely Story in Plainville, the Black Box Theater in Franklin, Mel's Diner in Wayland, Bliss in Attleborough, Bada Bing's before that tragic fire in Millis. This district has all the issues that face our entire Commonwealth, and each section of it has not just, they all share the same issues, but they are manifesting in different ways. Attleborough is a gateway city. We've had a serious amount of work that we've done as a partnership between the local government and the state delegation to shore up the downtown, to get historic tax credits, to do the rebuilding, and also to take care of people who need to be giving a little bit extra support. We have tremendous opportunities for climate and to protect our environment, which is why we've worked so hard to get funding for rail trails and for other environmental and climate action. And of course, we have education. I'm very proud to have been right there with our superintendents all along the way, all throughout this pandemic, trying to make sure that everybody gets the support they need. We've got all the same issues that manifest differently. They're all the kitchen table issues, and those are the issues that I've been championing all term long.
Matt, same question, 90 seconds.
Thank you, Peter. I will serve the people of our district the same way that I've served the Franklin Town Council and the citizens of Franklin for the past 10 years. I will be ever present and accessible to the residents of our district at events, through local office hours, local government meetings, as well as by phone and email. By being present, I will be able to better understand the needs of the residents and the communities of the district, and therefore be able to understand the needs of our citizens. I will make sure that the needs of the citizens and our communities are my first priority on Beacon Hill. As your state senator, I will make sure that your voice is heard. Thank you.
Next question will be from the editor of the North Star Reporter, weekly newspaper here in North Attleborough, Max Bowen. Local businesses are certainly against the wall right now, and it's expected some will close in the weeks or possibly months to come. As our state senator, Max wants to know how you can best support the owners of these businesses to help them survive. Matt, you have 90 seconds.
Thanks, Peter. As a Franklin Town Councilor, I understand the needs of our local businesses. I work with local businesses every single day. As a Franklin business owner and a small business owner, my family and I both understand the needs and what our citizens are going through today and our small business owners. I will continue to work with the small businesses like I do in Franklin throughout the district, and make sure that they have a voice, but also make sure that I'm there and present to hear that voice and do everything I can to promote their business as well as our towns and our communities. Thank you.
Becca, same question, 90 seconds.
Thanks, Peter. You know, our small businesses have been the hardest hit in this pandemic-induced economic coma. And as your state senator, I've already taken a number of steps to help. Certainly not enough. I'm also in the middle of taking certain steps, and there are plenty of things that I would do if we had the federal funds that the federal government should have already provided. Among the things that I've done already is to help numerous small businesses access relief funds, navigate the reopening rules, which are often very complicated, and network with other small businesses like yoga studios and small gym owners to collaborate through this crisis and devise useful strategies. We've also put together serious comprehensive resources for small business owners, and as the chair of the municipalities committee, I've eased the permitting processes and timelines so projects that were in play before COVID didn't lose traction, and restaurants could do some outdoor dining in addition to that takeout alcohol service. Right now, I'm actually in the midst of running a district-wide small business survey to figure out how to best help in this next phase of the COVID economy as we head into the colder months. And I'm collaborating with regional chambers of commerce and business organizations all throughout the district because, as the first question pointed out, while there is commonality in the need, there are differences between each town and city. But at bottom, no business will find success if people don't feel safe engaging those businesses as customers. So this is at least as much about a public health and infectious disease prevention problem as it is about anything else.
Next question is from Sun Chronicle columnist Mike Kirby. Governor Charlie Baker has gained praise by some for the tough stand he has taken during the coronavirus pandemic and criticism from others who feel he has gone too far with his restrictions on businesses. Mike would like you to play the role of teacher. Give the governor a grade. Does he get an A, an F, something in between? And just like a parent who gets the report card, they want to know why. Becca, grading the governor.
I would give the governor a B-. I think that there are a number of good things that the governor has done, and first and foremost, we are in a massive global pandemic of epic proportion that is killing between 700 and 1,000 Americans every single day. We must listen to the public health, epidemiology, and scientist experts who are giving the guidance that we need. And I know that the governor is listening to those experts, which is why the shutdowns or the restrictions, we didn't have a shutdown, but why the restrictions came into play. That having been said, I think that we needed to make sure that we centered voices of a broader section of people, including childcare providers and teachers in the reopening board. We needed a full order. When things started to fall apart, we needed clearer guidance for our schools, and frankly, we need some clearer guidance now as we're heading into these colder months, as we are entering this next phase of our recovery period. So, the governor has done, many things that have been good and useful, and I think we saw those results in the numbers going way down, but we're also now seeing the numbers start to tick back up, including in several of the communities that I represent right here in our district. And that's problematic. We need to get this under control, and people need to feel safe and healthy.
Matt, get out your grading pen. 90 seconds.
As a husband to a school teacher, third grade in Medway, Massachusetts, and a father of two young daughters who are in public schools, it's important that everybody understands that the education is very important in our family. It's a conversation a lot. I also had an opportunity last night to speak to Governor Baker, and the conversation revolved around a lot of the schools' decisions of opening and closing. And Governor spoke very highly about green communities opening and how we need to try to get our kids back and get them back safely. And I don't think it'd be fair to grade the governor. We are in unprecedented times. Nobody would have expected that we'd be asking our governor to make these decisions, and I think it's up to the voters on his election to grade him when it's time, if he decides to run again. And I think we should do everything we can to get our kids back to school when we can do that safely and keep everyone safe. So thank you.
That ends the first round of questions. We are back to another question by Sun Chronicle columnist Bill Gouveia. In Bill's opinion, this country and in this state, we are headed for an infrastructure crisis. Our bridges, roads, highways, schools, and other key aspects of our infrastructure are going to need replacing all over the state with little cash readily available. Bill would like to know what emphasis you place on this need and how you will work towards addressing it. Matt, you have 90 seconds.
Thank you. As the chairman of the Franklin Town Council, I introduced and oversaw multiple infrastructure projects in neighborhoods just like yours out there. Throughout the district, our infrastructure's needs are diverse and lacking funding to maintain constant upkeep. For the past 2 years, the focus on national agenda items has only cost us state funding and to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout the district. I would shift the focus of the national agenda under the current senator to an agenda to focus on our individual communities and their needs. I plan on working side by side with the local officials on what their needs are and work every single day to get them the funds that they need in their communities. Thank you.
Becca, infrastructure, 90 seconds.
There's a difference between talking about doing the job and actually doing the job. In my first term as state senator, as your state senator, I have worked very carefully, very closely with local leaders all throughout our district to make sure that we have the funding that we need for our communities. In fact, even in the worst economic moment in our nation's history, in our Commonwealth's history, short of the Great Depression, as the chair of the Municipalities Committee and working collaboratively with my colleagues in the Senate, with my colleagues in the House, and with the governor's administration, we level funded every single municipality in the state. Our infrastructure does need improvements, and that's why I've also worked with local leaders to provide millions of dollars in secured funding for transportation projects, for IT infrastructure in multiple of the towns that I represent. And we've also provided infrastructure that maybe sometimes people don't think about as infrastructure, specifically with regard to childcare. Our childcare, we all know, every parent who's like me, who's got young kids at home, we know that childcare is part of our infrastructure. We can't work without that. And I have made it a particular point during this COVID pandemic to shore up our childcare sector, in addition to providing $30,000 for our firefighters for new equipment and other particular aspects. And frankly, we can provide a lot of jobs and restore our infrastructure by working to promote a green economy.
Thank you very much. Our next question, Max Bowen, the editor of the North Star Reporter, writes, one of the greatest issues across the state right now is how schools should be instructing students during this coronavirus pandemic. Some have gone fully remote, while others have brought all students back 5 days a week. Max would like to know what you believe is the best approach. Becca, you get the first crack at this one.
This is a tough question, and each community in this district has had to fend for themselves, and that's disappointing, and it's been deeply, deeply difficult. I do think that we needed better instruction from the state Secretary of Early Education and the Secretary of Elementary and Secondary Education for groups of schools in communities that are similar. In Needham, where I live, the schools are open on a hybrid plan. In Franklin, they're fully remote. In Attleborough, they're hybrid. And so far, things have been working. And what I think is the most impressive thing about this is our teachers. Our teachers are just phenomenal people who are doing amazing work under incredibly difficult circumstances. I've been a proud product of public education, a proud parent of a public education student. The little one is not yet old enough to go to public school yet. He's still in pre-K. But I will continue to stand up for public education each and every time. I was thrilled to be part of the team of legislators, bipartisan, who worked so hard to pass the Student Opportunity Act to ensure that every child gets a high quality education regardless of their zip code. And I am particularly proud to always stand with our teachers and to be the candidate in this race that is endorsed by all 3 major teachers' unions in the Commonwealth.
Matt, your turn. Earlier I asked you to play the role of teacher. Now you've been promoted to superintendent.
I love it. So as your senator, I will fight to ensure that we continue to lead the nation in education and educational choice for our children. We must seek to continue to invest in our students and our teachers. But really, I would leave the opening and closing to our local leaders. They know their communities best. They can work with our Board of Health. As a former school committee member, I think they have the pulse of the communities and they can do what's best for their community. And they also have the residents and the teachers' ear on what needs to be done. So I would leave that up to the local leaders and I would support them 100% as their state senator.
Thank you. Time for our next question. Mike Kirby playing the role of instigator. Sun Chronicle columnist would like to know, who do you support for president and why? Matt, you have 90 seconds.
Thank you. I'm Matt Kelly, and I'm running as Matt Kelly. I'm running for the state Senate. I think what we really need to do is take national politics out of our state and out of our communities and focus on what's important, and that is bringing local aid to our communities where it's needed and it's been lacking. Thank you.
Becca, president and why?
I have, in fact, already voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because I have championed voting by mail in 2020 because elections are a central, crucial pillar of our democracy, and I'm very proud to have championed everyone's ability to safely access the polls this year. It's unfortunate that my opponent refused to answer this question. It should be obvious. There is only one candidate in the presidential race who believes in the humanity of every person in this district. There is only one candidate running for president who believes in universal access to health care. There is only one candidate in this presidential race who will take climate action seriously. There's only one candidate for president who takes this virus seriously. The choice is clear. And whether we like it or not, whether we want to admit it or not, there is an inherent connection between national politics, state politics, and local politics. Part of the reason our state is struggling to recover, part of the reason we don't yet have a state budget, is because the federal government has not yet released any relief funds. Part of the reason that we have worked so hard at the state level to ensure that our local economies get the funding they need is because we haven't gotten that from the national level. Our state does take care of our people, and I'm very proud to work with local and state colleagues to make sure that our communities have as much as we can possibly give.
Becca, I just want to remind you to keep an eye on Megan Miller and her time cues.
Thank you.
Time for the portion of the debate where the candidates get to ask the questions of each other. Now, the way this works is the candidate will ask a question. The person being asked that question gets 2 minutes, and the person who asked the question gets 90 seconds to respond to that answer. The first question will be asked by Matt Kelly, and then Becca, you will have 2 minutes to respond. Matt?
Thank you. Over the last decade, on a national and state level, tax cuts have created the lowest national and local unemployment rate in the history of our country. Due to the business foreclosures forced on the state due to the pandemic, Massachusetts unemployment currently stands at 14.5%, more than triple what it was pre-pandemic. You've proposed, among other tax increases, raising the corporate income tax to 9.5%. Given what we have seen over the past 10 years, how will your tax increases lead to bringing jobs back in Massachusetts?
Thank you for the question. Research and decades of evidence shows that the best way for us to get out of a recession is to do our level best to avoid deep cuts, and instead to actually infuse funds into our economy, both our state economy and our local economy. We all know that our budget is in a real tough spot right now. Our state is looking at a $5 billion, that's billion with a B, dollar shortfall for our state budget. We have to figure out a way to compensate for that because we aren't getting any relief from the Republican politicians in Washington. So we have to figure out where things are working. Where are the things working? Well, we know that there are certain very large companies who are, in fact, doing okay right now. So as to the corporate tax, let's be clear. The corporate tax about a decade ago was 9.5%. Then it was reduced down to 8%. If we raised the corporate tax rate, and this is only a very small number of companies that actually pay this, it's like 10 or 15%. Most of the companies pay what's known as the corporate minimum tax. But if we were to do that, raise it back to what it was before, in fact, as we were trying to get out of another recession, or just before that, we would raise another $375 million in state revenue every day that we could then every year that we could then turn back into our local economies and infusing our local economies with support funds. Now, if we had those funds, which again we should be getting from the federal level, but we haven't, I would make sure to give it to the smallest businesses first, though not the ones that have a loan officer on speed dial, and to put it into jobs that can be done in the midst of a global pandemic.
Matt, you have 90 seconds to respond to Becca's answer.
Thank you. For too long in Massachusetts, we have based our plans on tax increases and burdens to our residents. Faced with the daunting unemployment, now is not the time to raise taxes. When I'm elected, I'll work with my fellow legislators to create tax incentive plans to boost job creation. I've done this in Franklin for the last 10 years, and I will also work to alleviate government waste and pass a budget that is both fiscally responsible and covers the needs of our communities.
The next question will be asked by Becca Rausch. Matt Kelly will answer. Becca?
Thanks, Peter. The ability for people to decide for themselves about their own reproductive health care, including safe and legal abortion, is under serious attack. If elected, what would you do to actively advocate for reproductive freedom and ensure constituents will be able to make their own decisions about accessing the full spectrum of reproductive health care, including but not limited to abortion care?
Thank you. We all mourn the passing of RGB, and anytime we lose a Supreme Court justice, it's a sad day. Roe v. Wade is the law of the land. Massachusetts needs to continue to be the leader in reproductive rights, and I want to ensure that the protections in Roe v. Wade are kept. My problem is with the Roe Act, some of the changes to the Roe Act. I have two daughters, 12 and 14, and in the changes that my opponent has provided, a 13-year-old can have an abortion without the consent of an adult or guardian, and I just can't allow that to be something that I can live with. That being said, abortion has long-lasting effects, and as a parent and a legislator, it's my job to protect our minors, and I will protect women's rights as a senator. Thank you.
Becca, you have 90 seconds to respond.
As a senator, a woman, a person who has been pregnant, a person who has given birth, and a parent, there has never been a more important or pressing time to ensure that all people have the ability to decide for themselves whether, when, and how to parent. When someone decides to have an abortion, it should be safe, accessible, and free from punishment or judgment. When it comes to our kids and our youth, we all want our children to be able to come to us with serious problems or serious issues. But the fact is that some kids out there, they just can't. They can't go to their parents. We all want young people to be in safe and supportive home environments, but we can't control for that. And that's why the provisions of the Roe Act are so very important, all of them. And we must provide, because it seems very likely that Roe v. Wade will fail, we must not only provide access to safe and affordable reproductive health care, we must pave the way to ensure that the Roe Act is passed, and that is exactly what I have been doing in office. I am a leading champion for reproductive health care, having passed, again, not one, but 2 bills to address racial disparities in maternal health and also to ensure people have access to midwifery care comprehensively, and our midwives have access to PPE, especially during this very difficult infectious disease crisis.
Matt, you get to ask a question of Becca.
Thank you. Over the last 6 months, I have spoken to a number of town and city elected officials, both Democrats and Republicans, who have shared the same very real concerns about the decrease in state aid money. In 2019, pre-COVID-19, Franklin, Plainville, Rentham, Millis, and North Attleborough lost a combined net $900,000 in aid. That is $900,000 less for our seniors, less money in our classrooms, for public health, and to keep our communities safe. As we move to an even more difficult state budget for FY22, what reason will you give the people of these communities to trust you?
Let's be clear about a couple of things. My budgets have been comparable to the budgets that have come before. And again, in this deeply, deeply difficult economic moment, we, the legislature and the governor, agreed to level fund every single municipality in our district and throughout the Commonwealth. Again, even though we're in the worst economic forecast since the Great Depression. We also level funded education with even an increase for inflation. Now, I talk to Mayor Paul Heroux regularly, and I'm very proud to have his support for my reelection. And general government aid is actually calculated by the executive branch. But that having been said, hundreds of millions of dollars have come back to this district. On top of those hundreds of millions of dollars, I've collaborated with colleagues on both sides of the aisle and with local leaders all throughout the district to fund special projects and particular line items, including $50,000 for the Franklin Public Schools for a vaping prevention program, $50,000 for North Attleborough to create a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education makerspace, $30,000 for our firefighters in Plainville, $50,000 to make playgrounds more accessible, $1 million to promote healthy youth intimate partner relationships, rail trail funds, and multiple millions of dollars for our senior centers. I got these projects done by reaching out to our local leaders like town administrators and the mayor, and collaborating with my legislative colleagues on both sides of the aisle, including State Representatives Betty Poirier and Sean Dooley. Now, if we had that money from the federal government, we would be able to do a lot more. We would be able to set aside funds to make sure that folks who have jobs can keep them. We'd be able to better build green energy jobs. So I'm really hoping that our federal funding will come through.
Matt, you have 90 seconds to respond.
Thank you. Well, the senator points a gray picture of today. And level funding is great for today. We have to worry about down the road. Since Richard Ross was not our senator, Franklin's lost $295,000 in funding and net receipts. North Attleborough, $230,000, Rentham, $181,000, and the list goes on. We cannot allow, during one of the greatest economies that we've ever had pre-COVID, to let our senator continue to have money and go down and down to our communities. For 10 years as a Franklin Town Councilor, I have worked across the aisle with Jeff Roy and Karen Spilka and everyone else that I could possibly get a hold of to turn around and have conversations on how we were going to bring money to my town, Franklin. And I will do the same thing for you as your state senator. Thank you.
The final question in this portion of the debate will be asked by Becca Rausch. Becca?
As you know, we are in the midst of a very serious global pandemic. Several of the communities that I represent in the state Senate have seen an increase in the COVID transmission in the last couple of weeks. Attleborough is even in the red zone. Why do you oppose legislation to create public health infrastructure that we so seriously and sorely lack, designed to help prevent another infectious disease crisis in the future?
To be honest, I don't oppose any infrastructure or COVID-19 or any other virus out there. You know, we all hope the COVID-19 virus goes away soon, and as soon as we can. We all would like to get back to our lives. We need to follow the science with COVID-19, scale back when necessary, and when the numbers go up, then that's what we'll do. I will work with our local towns and communities, just like in Franklin. I worked with the Board of Health to create contact tracing for our community and got us down to 0 cases in Franklin over the summer. We monitor that as a town councilor every single day, and I would do the same for our district. And I would work with our local legislators to make sure that they had the supplies that they needed when they needed them. Thank you.
Becca, you have 90 seconds to respond.
It's just not enough to hope that we pull out of this pandemic. We have to work to get there, and we need the infrastructure in our Commonwealth to prepare for what is to come and to prepare for solutions and then implement those solutions. So it's odd that our state is one of the best places in the nation and even the world to get health care, but we so desperately lack comprehensive public health infrastructure that would have helped us manage through COVID-19 and infrastructure that will help us prevent another infectious disease crisis in the future. I am one of the foremost champions of building that public health infrastructure in the legislature. So it is absolutely critical that my leadership and my championing stay right where it is so that everybody in our district and frankly the entirety of the Commonwealth, since the diseases and viruses know no district lines, can get out of this. I also strongly support bipartisan efforts to protect public health, and there are several of them right now, both from our governor and within the legislature, and even within the last couple of weeks, a public health bill was just filed by both Democratic and Republican legislators that I have co-sponsored. I'm very proud to be the public health champion in this race, endorsed by our nurses, our social workers, our scientists, and Moms Demand Action for Gun Violence Prevention, which is also a public health issue. Thank you.
Thank you to the two of you. The final question of the evening will be asked by me, and I am asking it on behalf of the professionals who work in cable access corporations like mine throughout the district, many of whom are replaying this debate numerous times leading up to Election Day, a valuable service to the residents of those communities. So here is a very long-winded question. 90 to 95% of the revenue cable access corporations like North TV, and I'm sure you know this, come from a portion of cable subscribers' monthly cable bills. Now, the fees are paid in lieu of taxes the cable giants do not pay for running cables throughout a city or town. As residents cut the cable cord and move to streaming services, there's going to be less and less money to operate stations, cover government meetings, school events, and debates like tonight's. Now, although the streaming services that replace cable are delivered on those same cables, on those same telephone poles, the cable companies, currently under state law, are required to pay nothing. Would you be willing to introduce legislation to help organizations like North TV, the Needham Channel, Franklin TV from vanishing in the coming years? Matt Kelly, you get 2 minutes.
Thank you, Peter. It's a great question, and I'm so happy to be here tonight in the North TV studio. This is a great feat for the community of North Attleborough. I know that because in Franklin, I was able to help build a Franklin TV studio, which is absolutely gorgeous. And recently, we went forward and built and started building out our own radio station. Yes, the answer to your question is 100% yes. We need to do everything we can to make sure that our local TV stations stay up and running and get out to the public and the people within the communities. I've done this for 10 years as a town councilor and worked with our Franklin TV studios, and I will be doing that with each and every TV studio in the district, and making sure that I make regular appearances, and I hope that doesn't deter people from watching.
Becca, same question.
Thanks so much, Peter. I have such a deep appreciation for our local press, and it's been a great privilege to work with local press throughout the district, throughout my tenure in the Senate. I've been in this studio many times. When COVID hit, Peter, you and I had many opportunities to do lots of interviews over Zoom, and still produced, of course, right here in the studio. And local TV and local print media all throughout the district. They are providing such a critical service. You are providing such a critical service to our people. This is how transparency works, right? We don't have transparency without local press. And that's particularly important to me as the foremost champion of transparency in our legislature. But it's not just about filing the bill, which I would be happy to do. It's also about advocating for the bill, pushing it through, making it actually go. And there's only one candidate in this race who actually has the experience and the know-how to make that happen. And it's also about securing the funding. Passing the bill won't be enough. We're going to need to actually get the money to sustain local media. And that's one of the things that we could fund with that very small increase to our corporate tax rate, to restore the corporate tax rate to what it was over a decade ago, making sure that we are not putting any more burden on any of our families, on any of our workers, because none of us can take it right now. But placing just a small increase on the companies that can actually handle it so that we can ensure the sustainability of our local media, of transparency, of making sure that people have access to the critical services that our local TV, local radio, and local print media provide.
Thank you. It's time for our closing statements once again, determined by flip of the coin. Becca Rausch will give the first closing statements, and she will have 3 minutes.
My friends, as you've heard tonight, your choice in this election is clear. I'm the candidate with the lengthy, proven track record of successes on behalf of everyone in this district, achieving it all in a very short amount of time based on my leadership, collaboration, skill, and advocacy. I've pushed for progress and delivered results on public health, reproductive freedom, service to our district, and more. These are tough times. Life as we knew it has been turned upside down. Many families were struggling before the pandemic, and many more are struggling now. I have helped thousands of people navigate through these crisis moments, getting food assistance, being able to stay in their homes, helping to keep our small businesses' lights on, protecting jobs, accessing unemployment relief funds when things have fallen apart. I've offered more condolences and sympathies than I care to count. We are in a serious public health crisis and a serious pandemic-induced economic recession, and I am doing everything in my power to get us out of this mess. But we can't get out of the mess without fixing our public health infrastructure, something I'm championing in the state Senate. If you too want to protect public health and prevent a future infectious disease crisis like the current one, I am your candidate. If you want to preserve and enhance reproductive freedom and defend each person's right to decide for themselves about their own reproductive health care, I am your candidate. If you want climate action, robust public education, good paying jobs with benefits and appropriate COVID precautions, equality and respect for all, and a more peaceful future, I am your candidate. That's why I've earned the support of dozens of local leaders throughout our district, including multiple town councilors right here in North Attleborough, multiple Attleborough city councilors, Attleborough Mayor Paul Heroux, the chair of the Franklin School Committee, and majorities of several select boards, in addition to an overwhelming majority of the district's legislative delegation, including State Representative Jim Hawkins, State Senator Paul Feeney, and Senate President Karen Spilka. The people and organizations supporting my reelection know that sending me back to Beacon Hill is the best path forward for all of us to get out of the current public health and economic crises, to keep helping our families and our workers and our communities, and to continue making crucial advancements on the issues that matter most to our daily lives now and the future we're trying to build for our children. I'm running for re-election as your state senator because I have been working tirelessly for you this term, and I'll keep putting my proven leadership to work for you in the next. I'm Becca Rausch, and I respectfully ask for your vote on or before November 3rd. Find comprehensive voting information on my website, beccarausch.com/vote. I wish everyone watching, everyone here in the studio, and all of your loved ones strength, health, and resilience. We will get through this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Becca. Matt, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you again to Peter Gay and North TV for organizing tonight's forum and for tuning in. I hope that tonight I have clearly expressed the experience, knowledge, and readiness I have to properly represent you and your family in the state Senate come November. Over the past 10 years as a Franklin Town Councilor, I have proven results by creating economic growth, developing new initiatives that create additional revenue streams, introducing successful environmental programs, and ensuring that our public employees have the funding they need to do their job and keep our communities safe. As a small business owner, I know what it takes to make payroll. I have been creating jobs for over 2 decades. Out of 40 senators, there are less than 5 who own a small business. We need people in the state Senate that will pass a budget on time, reduce your tax burden, and recognize that small businesses are the backbone of our cities and towns. Over the past 8 months, I have met with thousands of citizens, local officials, small business owners, and nonprofit organizations. We all share the same concern, which has brought me here tonight. There is a drastic reduction in state and local aid in our cities and towns, and it's unacceptable and has long-term damage consequences to our communities. Over the past decade, I've built the relationships required to ensure our cities and towns get back their fair share. I ask you tonight to vote for your future and all of our futures in each community, our schools, and our families. I asked you to vote for me, Matt Kelly, to be your next state senator on November 3rd. You can learn more about me and my campaign at www.mattkelly4senate.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I want to thank my colleagues in cable access television throughout the district for replaying this debate in the days leading up to the election. The election is, of course, November 3rd. As Becca mentioned, there's mail-by voting, there's early voting. Very important that you learn as much as you can. In our neck of the woods, and I'm sure in yours as well, there's state rep races to decide this state Senate seat, congressional races, of course, vice president, president, and then I can't wait for November 3rd for the commercials to end about question 1 and question 2. But very important that you cast a vote, no matter how you do it, on November 3rd. For those of you watching in North Attleborough and Plainville, we will have live election coverage the night of November 3rd, beginning at 9 p.m. On behalf of Chris Miller, our director, our timer, Megan Miller, and Kevin Daggett, our host out in the community room, thank you for watching this Senate debate.